on their body, they were placed under Annelida group. So during this process of evolution of metazoans, metamerism is nothing but it is like transformation from one form to another. Okay, like usually first they will take one structure, then they will take another structure. So it's a progressive step of differentiating. Okay, so here during the developmental process, we have three germ layers. So ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. So from this ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm, different cells will come and they unite, and then they will form different tissues and different organs and organ systems. Okay, so finally they form into different organ systems like nervous system, digestive system, and so on. So here nephridia belongs to kidneys, right? So nephridia is of ectodermal origin. Then coelomoducts, they are from mesodermal origin. So like that, from different germ layers, you will get different organs. Okay. So this nephridia here in some animals, so it is involved in not only the excretion process, but also the exit of gametes. So here it is doing two work. Okay. So this is about the basics, like how Annelida has come into existence. So the classification. Now we will discuss about the general characteristics. So all the animals which are placed under this Annelida, so they have same characteristics. So what are they? They are multicellular. They have many cells. Then triploblastic, they have three germ layers, ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. Then bilateral symmetry, that is, if we cut them into half, we can get similar kind of more formation on two sides, two halves. Then coelomate worm-like animals. Coelom is present, that is a cavity in between, and worm-like appearance is seen. It is divided into number of ring-like segments, or which are also called metamers or somites. So like segments. So best example is earthworm. You might have done in your intermediate, right? So where you can see the segments, okay, ring-like structures. And the segments are separated from each other externally by grooves and internally by septa. Septa is nothing but like a wall. And this segmentation is also known as metamerism. Okay. And in some animals, external segmentation corresponds to the internal segmentation. Okay, like in leech. So in leech, you can see only external segmentation, but there is no internal segmentation. Okay. And annelids are present in marine water, fresh water, and some are there on the land, like terrestrial forms. And most of them are free living, free moving, and some may also lead to ectoparasite life. They live on the external surface of the host, but not on the internal surface. There is a single prioral segment called prostomium, and the first segment is called peristomium. Okay, and the anal segment, which is at the end, is called as pygidium. Okay, other than that, all the other segments, the structure is similar. And the body wall is thin, transparent, non-cellular covering, which is cuticle, which is separated by, secreted by epidermis. So here cuticle is like for insects, how they are present. And the body wall is dermomuscular. Dermo means skin, like skin color, skin type, and then we have muscles of muscular structure. Yeah, sorry, it went into you. Okay. So, yeah. It is dermomuscular. It consists of single layer of epidermis and it has muscles. Then circular and longitudinal muscles are present and paired appendages. The extensions are present but they are not jointed, and chitinous bristles which are called setae or chaetae. Okay, they are embedded in the skin which are helpful for the locomotion or the movement. And the setae may be arranged in two pairs on each side of the segment. For every segment, on each side of the segment there are two pairs. Like there are numerous number, not a single segment, but many setae are present. And annelids are the only animals to use the setae as locomotory organs. Okay. Then annelids are coelomate animals which have coelom, true perivisceral coelom, which is present in between the two mesodermal layers. And coelom consists of coelomic fluid, which is used as a hydraulic skeleton. It will give the structure. Okay. And in leech, this coelom is reduced. Only few amount is present. Like small portion is present as a coelom. Then digestive system is developed. It has alimentary canal, mouth, anus, and all defined organs are present. And in leech, a storage part which is called crop is also present. And the digestion is only extracellular. And the respiration occurs through surface or through parapodia. And they are the first animals to have well-developed closed blood vascular system. And hemoglobin is present, which is the respiratory pigment in the blood. Okay. Then excretory system is through nephridia, and the nephridia are coil-like structure. Okay. And they communicate or they interfere with the coelom and exterior, that they extend from the coelom and the exterior. And the nervous system consists of cerebral or supra-osteopharyngeal ganglia, which is present above the pharynx. Okay, and a nerve ring is present and ventral nerve cord is present. Okay, then sense organs are present like tactile organs, taste buds, eyes, all these are present and they are bisexual, monoecious. Okay, then in polychaetes, the sexes are separate. Okay, usually male and female sexes are separate, and the gonads develop into they develop from coelomic epithelia, and the gametes come out through the nephridia or coelomoducts. And the development is direct in monoecious form. Okay, it is indirect in dioecious form. So indirect development is nothing but through larval stages, whereas direct development is nothing but directly from egg, from embryo, directly the development takes place. And the cleavage of egg is spiral and determinate, and asexual reproduction is seen in some animals through budding. Okay, so these are the general classification. Okay, so then I'm not going to discuss much about classification because it will take complete time, but just briefly I will explain. So the phylum is divided into four classes: Polychaeta, Oligochaeta, Hirudina, and Archaeanelida. Archaeanelida. Okay, we will directly discuss the type study. Okay, yeah. So the type study is Hirudinaria granulosa, which is also called as the Indian cattle leech. So leech, you might have heard, usually in water, they stay in water and they usually bite animals. So they suck blood from animals, even from human beings, but mostly animal, they go for bathing and all those things. So that's why they usually feed on the animals. So leeches belong to the class Hirudina. So there are around 3,000 species of leeches, which are specialized forms of annelid. Okay, they live in fresh water, and some of them live in land also. Okay, but most of them are parasitic, which feed on the blood of vertebrates. And some are predators on snails, insects, and other small larvae. And the common Indian species of this leech is, there are some species. So Hirudinaria granulosa, Hirudina viridis, Hirudina javanica, and Hirudina malalensis. So here we are studying Hirudinaria granulosa. So the tiger leech, which is called Himadipsa, that lives in the hills of South India. And this Hirudinaria granulosa is also called as commonly called as Indian cattle leech. So we'll just discuss the classification. It belongs to phylum Annelida, class Hirudinae, order Gnathodelida, genus Hirudinaria, and species Granulosa. So habitat. So it lives in freshwater ponds, lakes, tanks, swamps, and sluggish streams, and standing water in agriculture fields. Okay. So usually it takes protection under logs, stones, and plants. And it can swim in the form of looping movement. And it is an ectoparasite which lives on the surface of the fish, frogs, cattle, and men. Usually when they visit waters, like for bathing or washing or drinking purpose, then they usually get affected by these leeches. And the leeches are sanguivorous, feeding on the blood of vertebrates. So they are nothing but blood-sucking animals. Now we will discuss about the external features of the leeches. So shape, size, and coloration. So the body of Hirudinaria is soft, dorsoventrally flattened, elongated, and vermiform. It is like a worm. In contraction state, when it undergoes contraction, it is like cylindrical shape with extended appearance like a ribbon. But in normal condition, without any contraction, so the dorsal surface is convex and the ventral surface is more or less plain. And near the posterior end, that is the end of the body, it is broad, and in the anterior end it is narrow. Okay, and it is bright color. Okay, it has characteristic markings, all segmentation. The dorsal surface is olive green and ventral surface is orange yellow or orange red in color, and the stripes of orange or yellow or black occurs on the sides. So it's colorful. Okay, and the dorsal surface is marked by the presence of median longitudinal stripes. So there are segments. So here there are total number of 33 segments. Okay, so unlike other annelids, here the segments are fixed. The number of segments are fixed. Hirudinaria. It shows only external metamerism or segmentation. Internal segmentation is absent. Okay, therefore there is no correspondence between the external segmentation and internal segmentation. Okay, so here each segment is subdivided into ring-like portion called annuli. So here you can see the table. So segments 1, 2. So first and second segments. Number of segments 2. Okay. How many annuli present for each segment? 1. So total number of annuli are 2. Then third segment, one segment only, but 2 annuli are present. So 2. Like that, in total 109 annuli and 33 segments are present. The number of annuli in each segment is not constant. Okay, so that is what we have seen in the table. So in one segment, it is only one annuli per segment, whereas in some other, it is 2 or more. Okay, so it varies in different segments. So segments from 7 to 22, they have 5 annuli each, and they are complete segments, and they are the broadest segment. You can see the below portion of the body is wider, broad, whereas the upper one is narrow. And the rest of the 17 segments with less than 5 annuli, whether it is 1 or 2 or 3 like that, they are called incomplete segments. And each annulus of the segment is further divided into small rectangular areas by the longitudinal folds. Now the receptors. Annular receptors. So each rectangular area, whatever we have discussed in the below, each annulus consists of rectangular areas. So they have sensory papilla, the annular receptor. So there are 18 annular receptors on the dorsal and ventral surface of each annulus. So on the each annulus, there are annular receptors. Okay. And the segmental receptors are sensillae. So these are large sensory papillae. So in the first annulus of each segment, 4 sensillae are present on the dorsal side and 3 sensillae are present on the ventral side. So the first annulus of each segment is known as sensory annulus. Okay. Then eyes. So there are 5 pairs of eyes on the dorsal surface. So first 2 pairs are on the first 2 segments. Third, fourth, and fifth pairs are there on the first annulus of third, fourth, and fifth segments. So in the corresponding segments only they are present, but on the first annulus. And the segments bearing the eyes are called as ocular segments. Okay, and the eyes are dot-like structures, and they are semicircular in nature. And the part of the body before the first ocular segment, okay, first ocular segment is present in the first segment. Okay, so before that, whatever the body is present, that is called as prostomium. So prostomium consists of prostomial glands, which are receptors for the touch and then receptors for the sight, are all present on the prostomium. So they are highly sensitive. Then suckers. A sucker is nothing but it's a muscular organ, and they are capable of extension and involution. That is, they can infold and they can extend also. They are the organs for prehension and locomotion. So here there are 2 suckers present on one at the each end. So anterior sucker is called as cephalic sucker and posterior sucker is called anal sucker. So cephalic sucker or anterior sucker. So here the sucker at the anterior end is called anterior sucker or oral sucker or cephalic sucker. So it is for the mouth. It acts as a mouth. And this is formed by the fusion of prostomium and other anterior segments. I told you the region before first segment is called as prostomium. So that prostomium and few anterior segments, they fuse together to form this anterior sucker. And it has an oval-like shape and a hollow cup-like preoral chamber, which leads to the mouth. This sucker's main function is adhesion, that is attachment, and feeding. Okay. Then posterior sucker or anal sucker, which is at the posterior end, it is also muscular and it is the fusion of last 7 segments of the body. It is much larger than the anterior segment, and this is mainly for the adhesion part. Okay, the function. Now the division of the body. So the body is divided into 6 regions: cephalic or head region, prectil, precli, preclitellar region, clitellar region, middle region, and caudal region. Cephalic or head region, it has 5 segments: prostomium, anterior sucker, mouth, and eye. And nephridopores are absent in this form. It has 5 segments in the cephalic region. Then preclitellar region, so the 6th, 7th, and 8th segments, they compose this preclitellar region. And each segment of this region bears a pair of nephridopores. And clitellar region, it is present at the segments 9, 10, and 11. There is no permanent clitellum in leech, whereas in earthworms you can see permanent clitellum. And during breeding season, a clitellum develops around the segments, and therefore this region, these segments are called as clitellar region. And the wall is highly granular, and nephridopores are present, and male and female genital apertures are also present. Okay. Then middle region, which composes the segments 12 to 22. Okay, and this is the largest region of the body, and the nephridopores are present on this zone. Then caudal region, so which is a segment from 23 to 26 segments, and nephridopores are absent here. And the last segment is, it acts as a dorsal anus. Now we discuss about the posterior sucker. So the last 7 segments, like from 27 to 33, they fuse completely, form the posterior sucker. So the intersegmental furrows are nothing but for the division of the segments. So they are obscure, okay, and the means they are not very clear, and they are arranged in the concentric rings with a single anus. Then the external apertures which are present are mouth, which is a triradiate aperture located in the preoral chamber of the anterior sucker. Then the anus, which is a small mid-dorsal aperture present at the base of the posterior sucker on the 26th segment. And 17 pairs of nephridopores, which are present, which are the external openings of the nephridia, and 1 pair each are present on the last annulus of the segments 6 to 12. Okay, so on each segment you will have annulus, right? So that last annulus, these nephridopores are present. And a mid-ventral male genital aperture, which is present on the interannular groove between second and third annuli of the 10th segment. And a thread-like penis-like structure is present, and a mid-ventral female genital aperture, which is present in the inner annular groove between second and third annuli of 11th segment are present. So on the 10th and 11th segments, between second and third, because each segment has 5 annuli. So between second and third annuli of 10th segments, you can see male genital aperture. And between second and third annuli of the 11th segment, female genital aperture are present. Okay. Then body wall. So the skin is always moist, slimy and slippery, and it consists of cuticle, epidermis, dermis, musculature, and botryoidal tissue. So what is a cuticle? It is the outermost structure. So it is non-cellular, thin, transparent, colorless, elastic layer present on the body wall. It is secreted by epidermis and it sheds off periodically and means after heavy meal, after it sucks lots of blood, so it will shed off this cuticle and again produces. And numerous pores of epidermal glands are present in this cuticle and it is protective in function. Then epidermis. So epidermis lies between the cuticle and the columnar cells, a cuticle and the body, and it is made up of columnar cells. And these cells are called hammer or mallet shaped cells. And the inner part of this epidermis, it forms a handle of mallet and the outer broad surface forms the head. And the outer region has no gaps between them, but inner region has gaps. Okay, and the peculiar hammer shape of the epidermal cells, it gives the grip to the muscles of this animal for extension and for locomotion and swimming. And the interspaces between the inner ends, that spaces are having fibrous connective tissue, pigment cells, and hemocoelomic capillaries. So these hemocoelomic capillaries, they act as respiratory surface for the respiration purpose, and some epidermal cells are modified into unicellular epidermal glands and multicellular receptors. Okay, so what are these epidermal glands? And so the epidermal glands are pear-shaped glands, and depending on their position, there are different types. One is slime gland, sucker glands, prostomial glands, and clitellar glands. Okay. Slime glands are distributed all over the body and are developed on dorsal surface of the body. Okay. They are pear-shaped and a narrow neck-like structure opens and it has the minute pore. They produce slimy mucus which covers the entire body. Then sucker glands. So sucker glands are also pear-shaped and there are two suckers as we discussed. This helps in the attachment to the substratum during the locomotion. Then prostomial glands, they are found on the prostomium in a distinct species of groups and their secretion, it forms two polar plugs which are close. One pole is close to anterior end and other is the posterior end of the egg. Okay. Then clitellar glands. They are present on the segments 9, 10 and 11. They get activated only during breeding season. And there are two types. Chitogenous glands, okay, which is made up of chitin. Okay, this helps in the formation of cocoon. And albumin glands, which secrete albumin, which albumin is a reserve food material. So which is present in the cocoon. So that will provide the food for the or nutrition for the embryo. Then epidermal receptors. So epidermal receptors already we have discussed in the sense organs part. Then dermis. Dermis, it present below the epidermis. It has connective tissue, then connective tissue cells, pigment cells, all these cells, and they are scattered muscle fibers hemocoelomic capillaries, and they are present in the basal portion of the slime glands. Then musculature, that is muscles, are present. It forms the largest part of the body wall, and all the muscles are smooth. Longitudinal muscles are very thin, and they require elasticity or flexibility for the movement or for the locomotion. So here these muscle fibers, they form separate bundles or form a continuous layer. Okay, so different types of muscles are present: circular muscles, longitudinal muscles, oblique muscles, and dorsoventral muscles, radial muscles. So circular muscles are present below dermis. Longitudinal muscles are present. They are the they are the majorly present muscles. They form the bulk of musculature. Then oblique muscles, they are between circular and longitudinal muscles. And dorsoventral muscles, so in each segment, these muscles, they are present from dorsal to ventral side, okay, of the alimentary canal. Then radial muscles, they radiate from the alimentary canal to body wall. Radiation means in the round shape. Okay, they are in the form of septa, like wall, and they, in addition to this, there are erector and depressor muscles which are present on the top above the sucker, which helps in the attachment and detachment to the substratum. And the elaborate muscle arrangement is adaptation mainly for the different types of locomotion. Okay. Then botryoidal tissue. So it's a mesenchymal tissue present between the alimentary canal and the body wall, and it is present only in the leeches. Okay, not in the another group of animals. It has pigmentation and highly vascular network of tubular cells, and their intracellular branching of capillaries are filled with the red fluid, and so this tissue is almost fills the body except in the hemocoelomic spaces or channels. Apart from that, all other body is filled with this tissue. And in this, there are two different cells: fat cells with droplets of fat, and glycogen and yellow cells, which are filled with yellow, brown, or green granules. And the main function of this tissue is excretion. Okay. So what is the function of the body wall? So body wall gives the protection to the internal organs. It gives moisture. So it protects the moisture from getting evaporated from the cuticle. And the mucus that surrounds this body, it is slimy. It forms a slimy film-like structure which is secreted by the body wall. And it is a protective mechanism to prevent the entry of salt and other harmful bacteria into the body. And the body wall acts as a respiratory organ with hemocoelomic capillaries. And here the pigment cells are present, and they protect the organism from the intense sunlight. And sucker glands are present, which helps in the attachment to the substrate. And the clitellar and prostomial glands, they help in the formation of cocoon and the closure of pores. Then albumin glands of clitella provides reserve food for the clitellum in the form of albumin for the developing embryos. And the epidermal receptors, they respond to stimuli or external signals, and the elaborately arranged musculature help in creeping and crawling, swimming, as well as feeding. Now we see the locomotion. So leeches have two different types of locomotion. One is creeping or looping or crawling, and other is swimming. Yeah. So in the creeping or looping or crawling, so you can see this image. So how it is slowly it moves its body. It will creep. Okay. Then it will crawl on the substrate. So here, by the activity of the muscles, they extend and they get contracted. At the same time, the suckers helps for the attachment and support to the substrate. Okay. This movement occurs excuse me, on substratum, and it is like a looping movement of the caterpillar. So you might have seen the caterpillar, how it moves. So this is the same way it moves. And the posterior sucker is firmly attached to the substratum, and by the secretion of the sucker glands. Okay, so by this sucker glands, this posterior sucker, it attaches to the substratum. And the circular muscles, they continuously contract, and the longitudinal muscles, they relax, which helps in the forward extension of the body. So, so here this is fixed by the anterior suckers. They fix to the substratum, and these circular muscles, they contract and longitudinal muscles relax. So in this way, the body will be pushed to the front. And then circular muscles, they relax and the longitudinal muscles contract. So this results in the releasing of this posterior sucker from the substrate. So in this way, it will move. And as such, the posterior end is brought closer to the anterior end. So you can see in the D image, D. So the anterior portion and posterior portion, they come together. Okay. And now the body is raised in the middle. It forms like a loop. And this process is repeated and the animal moves. This is called leech-like locomotion. And another type of movement is swimming. So as they're present in water, they are great swimmers. And due to contraction of these dorsoventral muscles, the body is greatly flattened and dorsoventrally like a ribbon. And the contraction and relaxation of the longitudinal muscles, they cause undulatory wave-like movement, and they help in the swimming of the animal to move forward. Okay. Next is digestive system. So digestive system is well developed. It has alimentary canal and digestive glands. So the alimentary canal consists of mouth to anus, and it extends all over the body. So it has three parts mainly: stomodium, mesenteron, and proctodium. Stomodium includes preoral chamber, mouth, buccal cavity, and pharynx. Then mesenteron includes esophagus, crop, stomach, and intestine. Sorry, it is getting stuck. Okay. So, where am I? Okay. So, stomodium, so which has preoral chamber, mouth, buccal cavity, and pharynx. Then mesenteral includes esophagus, crop, stomach, and intestine. Then proctodium includes rectum and anus. So this leech, it mainly feeds on blood, and this blood is not always readily available for the animal. So whenever it is animal, it has to suck maximum amount of blood and it has to store. So that's why it has a storage part which is called as crop. Okay. So major part of the alimentary canal is modified for the storage, and this blood contains digested foods, and it requires little amount of digestion. Already it is ready, like already all the digested nutrients, everything enters the blood, right? So directly nutrients are present and the digestion is not much required. So here the digestive part is reduced and only storage part is maximum. So it consists of preoral chambers, mouth, buccal cavity, pharynx, esophagus, crop, stomach, intestine, rectum, and anus. So based on the function, those are the organs. So based on the function, so this alimentary canal is divided into different regions. One is blood sucking, blood carrying, storage, digestive and absorptive region, and egestion zone. So here blood sucking zone consists of preoral chamber, mouth and buccal cavity, pharynx. So preoral chamber is like a cup-like structure, and this is only for blood sucking leeches. So it's called cephalic sucker, like mouth, okay? And it is applied to the body of the host and it punctures the skin and the blood oozes out. It collects all this blood in the cup like structure, and this prevents the blood from going out of the mouth. Okay, and the roof of preoral chamber is formed by the first four segments and prostomium, and the outer boundary is formed by the circular rim of the sucker. Then the mouth, it is triradiate opening just below the preoral chamber, and one ray of mouth is median dorsal and the other is ventrolateral. And the membranous velum glands are present between the mouth and the buccal cavity, and the velum has three lips or gaps, out of which two dorsolateral and one median ventral positions. These three lips are present, two on the dorsolateral end and the one is on the median ventral position. Then buccal cavity. So it is adapted for puncturing of the skin of the host, and it is very short chamber, and it has mucous membrane which have three crescentic jaws. So they are compressed muscular cushion which covers the cuticle. It is covered by the cuticle, and the cuticle is thickened at the free edge and forms a teeth-like structures which are called denticles. Okay, and out of three jaws, one is median dorsal position and two are ventrolateral positions. They like act as a teeth, these jaws, and they help in puncturing the skin and sucking the blood. So one side of the jaw, there are 42 to 45 papillae, button-like shaped papillae, which are called salivary papillae. And the salivary papillae, they open into salivary glands. And these jaws are moved by three types of muscles: diagonal muscles, peripheral muscles, and longitudinal muscles. And now the jaws, they form a Y-shaped wound on the host body and they suck the blood. And next is pharynx, which is highly vascular and oval sac. It extends from fifth to eighth segment, and Internally, the wall of pharynx is present in the middle region of the 6 to, which is a middle region which is having 6 to 12 folds. Okay, and the number of capillary muscles are present in the pharynx, and this pharynx is surrounded by salivary gland, and it has a suction pump. So it helps as a suction pump for sucking blood and opens it into the esophagus. So this esophagus is a zone to carry the blood and storage organs. So this is a narrow and short occupying segment present on the eighth segment. It passes the blood from pharynx to the storage organ. The zone of storage. So I already told you only in the feces you can see crop, which is a storage part where it will store the blood. So crop extends from 9th to 18th segment. So it occupies 2/3 of the visceral space and it produces into thin chambers. Okay, and there are storing pockets here, and this gradually increases down during the posterior egg. Okay, upper one during the at anterior region it is narrow, and in the posterior region it is broadened. And the last chamber is the biggest chamber with the largest kika extending up to 22 segments or further also. And this thick wall crop and its chamber, so they are mainly for the storage of the blood as much as possible. So it ends in the funnel shaped tube, and its opening in the stomach is guarded by a sphincter muscle. Then the zone of digestion and absorption. Like other animals, so the blood is a food. It doesn't require any digestive activity, but it includes stomach and intestine. So stomach is present, which is a heart-shaped structure at the 19th segment, and the inner lining is uh, thrown into the transverse fold. Okay, and it is having the secretory and absorptive epithelial cells, and the intestine is not well demarked from the stomach, but extends from 19th to 22 segment. And the inner wall is thrown into numerous longitudinal and transverse folds, which are like villi. So you might have studied in some animals. Small projections will be seen, which is called villi. And now this intestine opens into the egestion zone. So in the egestion zone, it is having rectum and anus. So rectum is the thin wall, slightly dilated region, which is posteriorly, it turns upward. And in the rectum, no digestion occurs. It helps in the conservation of water by reabsorption of the undigested food, like in our kidneys, how it happens. So then it opens through the anus. Then anus, it exits the undigested food present. This is present on the 26th segment. Then digestive glands. So here the salivary glands are called as pyriform unicellular glandular mass of cells. Okay, and so it has these digestive glands are salivary glands and gland cells, isolated gland cells. Okay, then each cell has a small ductule which enters the jaw and opens out of the salivary papillae. And the secretion of these glands contains anticoagulate called pyridine. So this helps in the clotting of the blood from the wound. So therefore it can suck the blood continuously. Then feeding, digestion and absorption. So its feeding habit already I discussed, like it feeds on the blood of the cattle and other domesticated animals. and it enters the water. And the jaws, they protrude through the mouth and works towards sucking of the blood from the skin of the host. It painlessly, it will become numb, the region, so we can't even um, express the pain also, experience the pain. So with the pre-oral chamber, so and buccal cavity and pharynx, the blood which is oozed out, that is sucked. In the radial muscles around the pharynx, they contract and increase the volume of the pharyngeal activity. So in a single meal at a time, it can suck 5 to 10 times more than its own weight. So it can live for several months to an year after that also. So because it can't get the food whenever it is possible. So the hirutin of its salivary secretion, it prevents the clotting of the blood during its oozing, and from the pharynx, blood reaches to the crop. In the crop, the red blood corpuscles are hemolyzed and it is broken down, and the hemoglobin in the red blood corpuscles goes into a solution and the blood becomes dark red. Now, the blood from the crop where it is stored, it enters into the stomach where it goes to the sphincter muscle. So, in the stomach, it gets digested, but the digestion was not understood till now clearly. But a proteolytic enzyme, it was reported to digest the protein in the alkaline medium. And after the digestion, then so the undigested one gets reabsorbed, okay, and the digested one, so the globin of the blood is mainly used as a food, and it is absorbed by the intestine, okay, and this digested food is stored in the form of glycogen, which is found abundantly in the stomach cells. So whatever the undigested food that is sent out from the rectum through anus. Then coelom, it is nothing but the cavity, okay, and it is perivisceral coelom is present here, and it is reduced into channels and sinuses, which are spaces. Here, 4 main longitudinal channels with branches are present. And here, this coelomic fluid is present here, but here it is not the real blood, but it's a combination of coelomic fluid and the blood. Okay, that's why these channels are called hemocoelomic channels, and the fluid is called hemocoelomic fluid. Okay, and the spaces in testis sacs and ovi sacs and around vasa differentia, they have real or true coelomic sinuses or spaces. Okay, and these sinuses are the original remnants of coelom, where they separate the hemoglobin from the blood. Okay, then circulatory system, hemocoelomic system. So here the blood vessels are completely absent, but here hemocoelomic fluid and hemocoelomic chambers or channels, they act as the circulatory system, and hearts are absent. The walls of lateral channels are pulsating and rhythmic contractions occurs, and their contractions are accelerated by adrenaline from the ventral nerve cords and under the influence of inhibitory and acceleratory nerves from the visceral ventral ganglia. And this hemocoelomic fluid is a coelomic fluid. As I told you, it is a mixture of coelomic fluid and the blood. Okay, it separates the hemoglobin from the blood. And the hemocoelomic channels, there are four longitudinal channels, one in dorsal, one in ventral, and two in lateral regions. Okay. So I'm just speeding up. So time is up almost. So the dorsal channel is the mid-dorsal running from posterior to anterior end. So this dorsal channel is actually the distributing of this blood. And each segment, it goes off as dorsolateral or dorsal intestinal vessels. So what are dorsolateral? There are two pairs of dorsolateral um, branches which arise from the dorsal channel. They travel through the regions like dorsolateral region to the body wall for supplying of the blood. And dorso-intestinal walls, so there are number of branches and they supply this hemocoelomic fluid to the gut, wall of the gut. Then ventral channel and its branches. So it is also again the distributing channel. So here the first pair of cutaneous branches, it gives two types of branches. First pair are cutaneous branches or second pair are nephridial branches. So cutaneous branches again subdivided into ventral branch and abdomino-dorsal branch. And ventral branch, it supplies blood to the ventral region of the body wall, and abdomino-dorsal branch, it provides blood to the dorsolateral cutaneous plexus, okay, dorsal part of the region. And nephridial branches, which are present on 12 to 22 segment, there are 11 pairs of nephridial branches. Mainly, they are involved in the excretion part. Then lateral channels and branches. So here, there are two lateral channels are present on the each side of the alimentary canal. And hemocoelomic fluid flows from the posterior to anterior end through these channels. Okay. So here again they are subdivided into lateral branch, laterodorsal branch, and dorsal commissures are present and lateral commissures. So all these are based on the position. So I'm just skipping. So like all the function is similar. Like it is for the supplying of blood, but whether it's present in the dorsal end or ventral end. So whether it is moving from dorsal to ventral. So based on that, actually the names were given. And another is lateroventral branch. Then capillary system, it consists of botryoidal capillaries, already I have told you previously. Then intermediate capillaries and superficial capillaries or cutaneous capillaries. Then respiratory system. So it has no special respiratory organs. So the skin itself acts as a respiratory organ. So it extends into the spaces between the inner ends of the epidermal cells. And the oxygen which is dissolved in the water, that is taken as a taken up, and then the carbon dioxide is diffused out. This is called as external respiration. And hemoglobin, which is dissolved in the hemocoelomic fluid, it acts as a hemo carrier or oxygen carrier. Okay. So whatever the oxygen which is diffusing in the internal regions, hemocoelomic fluid, that is called internal or tissue respiration, and which is at the outside, that is called as external respiration. And the excretory system is through nephridia. So there are 17 pairs of nephridia from 6th to 17th chamber on either side of the segment, on the either side of the ventral nerve cord. Okay. So I'm skipping some of the topics like, so you have testicular nephridium. So which is having three lobes: initial lobe, apical lobe, and main lobe. Then another three are inner lobe, vesicle lobe or vesicle duct, and ciliated organs. So nephridia is present in the hemocoelomic system. So here through nephridia, it separates the waste material and hemocoelomic fluid, and this waste material is secreted. And here mainly ammonia is present, and some small quantities of urea, purines, and creatine are present. Okay. And the nervous system. So here it consists of central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, and sympathetic nervous system. So central nervous system consists of cerebral ganglia, subpharyngeal ganglionic mass, peripharyngeal connective, and ventral nerve cord, and terminal ganglionic mass. Then peripheral nervous system. So this is present from second, third, fourth, fifth regions of the eyes. So here four pairs of nerves are present. Then you also have sympathetic nervous system. Okay. Then sense organs. So sense organs are four types. They have receptors, free nerve endings, annular receptors, and segmental receptors, and eyes. This also I have already discussed when I told you about annular things. Then reproductive system. So male reproductive system and female reproductive system. So in the male reproductive system consists of testis sac, vasa differentia, vasa efferentia, and epididymis, ejaculatory ducts, and atrium. Okay. And female reproductive organs consist of ovisacs, ovaries, oviducts, common oviduct, and vagina. So here in the fertilization, the leeches, they cross fertile. Usually they are bisexual, but some are unisexual. And the breeding season is from March to April. And during copulation, whether it is in water or on land, two leeches meet head to tail position, and then the penis of one leech enters the female genital aperture of another, and mutual exchange of seminal fluid with spermatophores takes place, and the copulation takes place for about an hour. And the leeches separates and the fertilization takes place. And this fertilization is internal fertilization. Once fertilization is over, cocoons are formed from April to June. April, May, June. Then cocoons are formed, which forms light yellow or amber colored shape. Okay, inside cocoon there is a jelly-like material, and once the development happens inside the cocoon, 1 to 24 embryos will be released from the each cocoon consists of 1 to 24 embryos. So about 15 days it stays there, and young leeches are formed. It may take up to 5 years to fully grow the young leeches into the adult form. And so it is having parasitic adaptation. So its economic importance is these. So the terrestrial annelids include earthworms, and they form major soil macrofauna, and they also they produce worms. They act as biodegraders of waste biomass. So even earthworms are helpful in the vermicompost. They are helpful in fertilizing the agricultural lands. Okay. So metamerism.
Ma'am, can you just give us important topic of questions of this unit?
Just a second.
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah, so in this topic, mainly focus on this type study. And this only one topic is there only in Annelida. So Annelida itself is an important topic. So this type study you focus. Okay, in the type study also no need to discuss in detail. So here everything is given in the detail, like metamerism, what it is. So no need to go in depth. So you have to remember the segments. Okay, which organs are present in which segments and what is the function. Okay,
Okay.
no need. So it is very complicated. I can understand to remember everything. So that's why just remember. So like digestive system, excretory system, reproductive system, all these are there. No, in each system. So what are the organs present? First point. Then each. So this organ is present on so and so segment, and its function is so and so. Okay. So
Okay,
like that
ma'am.
you remember. No need to explain in detail. It can't even you can't write the complete thing. So no need to explain the metamerism and all these things in detail. So metamerism and such topic you may expect in the small questions.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So mainly focus on the type studies for essay answers. So whatever the topic. So you have Annelida and Arthropoda, right? So compared to both, Annelida is important. So in the previous class also, I told you about type studies, no? So those are very important. Okay.
Okay.
If I get any previous question papers, I'll share in the group. If I get, I will just check. You can
Okay, ma'am.
also go in the library if possible, in the university library, or you can go to the department. If you get any previous questions, you can just check and you can expect
Okay,
which
ma'am.
kind of questions will
Okay, ma'am.
be.
In next
Thank you.
class, just you can share your screen, ma'am, for that question paper.
Yeah, I will check.
Possible.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.